Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here on this webinar today for the AWS Marketplace Immersion Day. Excited that you're here and that you joined us today. My name is Steve Thomas. I lead AWS's ISV segment business for the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast, and I'm just thrilled to have you here with us today. First, I just want to say thank you for attending and committing your time and energy to today's session. We've got a great set of panelists here today that I think this time is going to be very valuable for you. We know that all of us have a number of priorities in our day, and so this team has built a really informative, fast-paced agenda for today that we think you'll find really valuable. By being present in today's virtual session, your organization already probably has a meaningful relationship with AWS, and I do want to say how much we really appreciate that. We're very thankful to have you in partnership with us, and we're excited to talk about some of the other opportunities in which we can drive a more meaningful relationship together. My organization supports a number of very of software organizations and SaaS organizations that are doing some really great things for their end customer markets on a global scale. But today's sessions really help to drive a couple of different lessons and things for you to share with us today. So a lot of the organizations that we work with are really, as they're evolving to SaaS, they're really looking to increase their reach to more customers on a larger scale. And they're asking AWS to help extend into new markets, reach new segments, and to develop co-selling tactics with us. And with the help of our wonderful partner customer, Trend Micro, we've gathered today a great panel to share more about how the teams are working together and to share multiple persona perspectives to help you consider driving additional top-line partnership with AWS. Hal, next slide, please. Great. So let me introduce our panel quickly. First off, we'll be joined today by Stephen Orban, General Manager of AWS Marketplace. I'll introduce him and his background here more formally in just a couple of minutes. Second, we'll hear some great perspectives from Michael Lembeck from BankUnited, sharing his perspective as an enterprise buyer and leveraging of Marketplace to support BankUnited's transformation. And then we'll also chat with Trend Micro's Yellow Terohin, and she'll share her team's experiences as a seller on AWS Marketplace and the partnership that they've developed with AWS. We'll have a panel discussion through the day. And of course, we'll carve out some time for you to order some lunch, compliments of Trend Micro. And then we'll wrap up and go a little bit deeper with Emmeline Wang as she drives into the AWS Marketplace at a more detailed level. Excited to jump in. Hal, next slide, please. From an agenda perspective, we are going to move very quickly. Please do expect that there's going to be a break and an opportunity for you to look at Uber Eats and get that queued up for you at about 10:40. So we are going to move quickly through the keynote and the voice of our customers today, and then we'll have that small break there to order Uber Eats and take a break there, and then we'll jump into the remaining topics there. I'm really excited for the latter part of our presentation when we get into more details with Emmeline around go-to-market and keys of co-selling with AWS and the onboarding process with the AWS Marketplace. Hal, next slide, please. So I'd love to introduce to you Stephen Orban. We're very, very lucky to have Stephen here today. Stephen is a longtime Amazonian. He's been with the organization a little over 7 years, formerly as a CTO and CIO of Dow Jones. He has a wonderful transformation story, but today he's really going to focus his expertise and share with you more as his role of GM of AWS Marketplace and Control Services. Stephen's got a great story to share, both in working with AWS Data Exchange and the things that he's been able to accomplish with our customers and partners through the AWS Marketplace. So with that said, Stephen, I'd love to turn the microphone over to you.
Happy to do that. Thanks for the introduction, Steve. And if everybody just bears with me for 1 second, while I take over on the slideware. Are we good? Can everybody see that now?
It's good.
Looks great.
Cool. So Steve did a wonderful introduction of myself already, so not much more I can say. I've been here with AWS for just about 7 years now. I ran our enterprise strategy for my first couple of years here. I built a number of different mechanisms to help. I got to turn my video on too, right? guys don't see me, right?
Not yet.
All right, hold on one second. Is that all right? How about now? There we go.
Yeah, we can see you now.
Cool. All right. So yeah, I started my journey with AWS 7 years ago, leading our enterprise strategy, helping the world's largest enterprises reason about their migration to the cloud. Built a number of mechanisms. Probably the one I'm most proud of is our migration acceleration program, which some of you on the call, either you or your organizations might be actually familiar with or leveraging to help with some large scale migrations to AWS. In 2018, I had the good fortune to be able to found what is now known as our AWS Data Exchange business, which makes it easy for our customers to find, subscribe to, and use third-party data in the cloud from what is now hundreds of data providers across a number of different industries. And when we built that business or started that business back in 2018, we thought it would be best to organize it in such a way that it nestled with the AWS Marketplace organization, because a lot of the capabilities that we were building to allow customers to license data from one another, we borrowed or used from the AWS Marketplace business, which had grown over the years, as I'll talk about, in the software space to help customers license software from world-leading third-party ISVs. So I had the good fortune of building the data exchange business within the Marketplace organization after the last couple of years. And then when Dave McCann, who I think some of you may know, decided that he wanted to move into a non-operational role in the first quarter of this year, I guess I was in the right place at the right time, and now have the good fortune of leading the AWS Marketplace business alongside the most capable and smartest team I've ever been a part of. So thanks for all of you on the call for putting this on. And just to reiterate what Steve said, thanks a lot for your time this morning. I know everybody has a lot of other things that they could be doing to grow their business, and the fact that you'd spend a couple hours learning about how we might be able to help you and how we can partner together to grow our top lines together, I'm honored. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And then also thank you to Michael and Yale for spending some time to also help send the message to some of our potential ISV partners here on how we can do really great business together. So super excited for today's conversation. Just to set the stage, some of you probably are already aware, since Steve said, a lot of you already have meaningful relationships with AWS, and everything we do at Amazon is done by working backwards from what customers need. It's how we decide what to build. It's how we decide where to invest, how and where we're going to innovate. And AWS as a whole was no different. 15 or so years ago, Amazon and Andy Jassy and a handful of folks that he worked with at the time realized that our teams internally couldn't move as fast as we wanted them to, because of how much time they had to spend managing data centers, patching servers, tuning databases, and so on. And we wondered, the folks at Amazon wondered if a lot of other organizations might be facing the same challenge, and really began to work backwards from the millions of developers, startups, and now enterprises and governments that might benefit from having access to on-demand, pay-as-you-go IT resources. Well, if you fast forward 15 years to today in 2021, I think it would be hard to argue with the fact that they were right. It turns out that pretty much every developer, enterprise, academic, and now increasingly even governments want access to that kind of capability. And we've learned that these millions of customers really want to be able to utilize the cloud to remain competitive. And more broadly, I would say, kind of the biggest value proposition from my perspective anyway, is what I might call a recovering CIO, is that really a lot of these organizations want to spend more and more of their precious time driving outcomes for their customers or citizens, much more than they want to focus on their IT infrastructure. So if you fast forward to today, AWS now has more than 200 different services that have helped customers and pretty much every major business segment evolve, which I'll also touch on in a little bit. But you can look no further than Capital One, transforming the way they operate and deliver value in financial services. Moderna is speeding up vaccine and other drug development in healthcare and life sciences. Fox is revolutionizing streaming media and media and entertainment. Brooks Brothers and J. Crew are transforming retail. Carrier and Volkswagen are reinventing their supply chain. And AWS now has more than 6,500 public sector agencies, including some of our friends at the US federal government, DoD, and the intelligence community, who are using AWS to transform the way they work. And Marketplace is no different as a business within AWS. We did the exact same thing to build AWS Marketplace by working backwards from customers. And what we found over the last 9 years is really we're now in a position where we're really transforming how enterprises worldwide find, subscribe to, deploy, and govern a broad range of capabilities across third-party software, data, containers, ML models, and professional services. And we really see this happen in two different perspectives, which again, Steve kind of highlighted this before. As a former CIO, I often tend to look at the world through the lens of how a CIO in a big organization thinks, but I really kind of see this happen in two big themes within our customers. First, when a customer decides that they want to do a big, large migration, or let's say a data center exit, which, as I mentioned before, we have a whole program called MAP, or the Migration Acceleration Program, to help customers through such a change that now works with, does a lot of work with thousands of customers every year. The customers need to go through this exercise where they're discovering all the different pieces of their on-premises environment and how it's going to move. But a lot of those architectures, not surprisingly, are filled not just with servers and storage systems, but also with third-party partner solutions. And these customers are trying to reason about how those third-party solutions are going to continue to go on with them on their journey to the cloud. How they're going to fit into their operating model, and for those third-party solutions that for whatever reason aren't going to make it, what's the alternative that they can use? So in these cases, we're increasingly working with customers very early on in their migration journey as we kind of map out what their migration is going to look like, to map their third-party dependencies to what AWS has available on Marketplace and help them migrate those at the same time. And I'll walk through some of the dynamics of how that works over the course of the coming minutes. And then the second large pattern we see, either post-migration or for enterprises that maybe have been, maybe yesterday's startups who are now becoming enterprises and they were born in the cloud. We also really work with the central procurement departments and CIOs to let their builders innovate fast and responsibly by giving them the controls that they need to give their teams the freedom to deploy products under certain circumstances, govern that deployment and the spend accordingly. Even just having visibility to that is a big win. And eventually custom negotiate deals with ISVs when workloads hit production or material spend enough. So what we're seeing is the combination of these two engagements really creates a center of gravity within the procurement function of our largest customers, who are now starting to favor more and more having to go through AWS Marketplace to get their third-party purchases for all those governance capabilities, the self-service that they can do at scale responsibly with their organization, help speed up their migration, and of course the spend for customers who make significant contractual commitments to AWS on Marketplace can help them retire that spend. And of course, I know this audience is coming at it from the vendor and the ISV angle. We're not just doing it for customers, but we're also doing it for you. And from my perspective, what we're aiming to do is not just help get your businesses to the cloud and transform faster, but also help you acquire customers who are moving to the cloud, particularly those in sort of these large scale migrations. And then of course, keep the existing customers you have as these customers move to. So we think we're at this really sort of interesting nexus point where we're really starting to scale with some of these really large enterprises, and we have a number of ISVs who we're working with, one of whom at least you'll hear from today, who are doing material pieces of their business through Marketplace today, where we can help them close larger contracts faster, which I'll talk about. So just a little bit on the evolution of Marketplace. I think it's kind of important to see, as you're sort of starting this journey with us, what we've evolved to over the course of the last 9 years, so you can kind of understand the breadth of capabilities that we've iterated on, and in my opinion, in a pretty fast clip. So in 2012, when Marketplace first launched, we were the first cloud provider to launch a cloud infrastructure marketplace. which was a very simple e-commerce idea where we gave customers self-service access and a point-and-click website to AMIs or Amazon Machine Instances that were running popular open source package or operating system software that they could continue to build their own software on AWS on. In 2014, we were the first cloud provider to launch annual subscriptions, which allowed customers to commit to a year of usage and save up to 40% on an hourly subscription. And this was our first step really in enabling customers to bring larger purchases to AWS Marketplace. But you can kind of synonymize this with how we think about reserved instances in EC2 instead of just the pay as you go per an hour. And if an ISV like yourself wanted to price their AMI in an annual subscription, they could do that, and customers could get more favorable pricing that way. In 2015, we added support for CloudFormation, which made it easier for customers to deploy not just AMI solutions, but ones that maybe included multiple instances or other cloud resources that needed to be grouped and deployed together. In 2016, this was one of the first, I would say, really key growth levers for us in our evolution. We launched the AWS Marketplace metering service, which allowed customers to start to purchase SaaS, typically priced by, let's say, the number of users, the number of hosts, or the amount of data scanned, or nodes monitored, whatever the case may be, which provided a lot more flexibility for buyers, particularly as the gravity and customer preference started to move towards SaaS. This continues to be a really fast-growing part of our business, and ISVs like yourselves can now set up your software so that it can meter by whatever dimension you want, which the metering service is basically just key value pairs, and we build the customers accordingly. And then in 2017, what we realized is that as customers started to migrate large data centers or big portions of their fleet and require their vendors to move with them, or they were growing spend to material levels by promoting workloads to production, they needed a way to negotiate custom pricing and terms with their ISVs. It turns out, at scale, large enterprises in particular don't typically pay rack rate for software. So in 2017, we were the first cloud infrastructure provider to launch what we now call private offers, which gives customers the opportunity to enjoy all the rest of the benefits that we have on both software governance and consolidating on their invoice, subscription management, cost analysis, etc., while being able to pay a privately negotiated price that's only visible to them and their seller. In that same year, we also launched an API for contract pricing for SaaS, so you could have a shopping-like experience and group certain units of things together with SaaS as well. Then, about a year later, customers told us that they often contract with their vendors through resellers, distributors, and managed service providers. So again, we were the first to launch what we now call CPPO, or channel partner private offers. So you as an ISV can make a channel partner serve as a seller of record, where Marketplace then handles the collections and disbursements to both you as the owner of the IP and the channel partner, which is particularly useful now for a lot of our ISVs as we grow the channel business to more than 500 channel partners on Marketplace today, growing to over 1,000 this year. And a lot of ISVs are really leaning into that, particularly to help them grow geographically, where they might not want to put in country resources, let's say in Asia if they're a US-based customer. In 2019, near and dear to my heart, customers told us that the process of finding and buying and using data was too hard. So as I mentioned before, I was very fortunate to be able to launch Data Exchange within the Marketplace family in 2019. I skipped containers and ML in 2018. In 2018, we also launched the opportunity for you as a vendor to package your software, not just in AMIs and SaaS, but also as a container or as an ML model that customers can buy into Marketplace. And then also in 2019, we had a lot of customers who were using systems like Coupa and Ariba to take the details of the transactions and flow them into their ERP systems and help them manage their spend. So we launched an API in 2019, and we were the first cloud provider to do this, which enabled customers to to map their marketplace activity into their own internal systems. And then last year at reInvent, we kept the hits coming, and we launched professional services deals with Marketplace, which really help customers who want a system integrator, let's say, to help configure software that they buy off Marketplace, do so through the same channel that they get the software. And then we also launched a feature last year called Managed Entitlements, which allows you as an ISV to integrate with our license manager, and then customers can much more easily view and share entitlements in an appropriate and governed way across their organization. So hopefully, I covered this pretty quickly, but hopefully this illustrates the pace at which we are really transforming the digital supply chain, and in many cases, how we were kind of the first and still the only cloud infrastructure marketplace with capabilities across this broad of a both sort of payment type and deployment model spectrum. And I'll dive into a little bit more of that in just a second. So just to summarize up, so if you fast forward to today, you combine all those capabilities, what do you get? Today we have more than 10,000 what we call transactable listings across AMIs, SaaS, data containers, machine learning, and professional services. And we're pretty unique in that all of our listings are what I said was transactable or subscribable, meaning we don't ever send a customer to another third-party site to begin using the capability. Everything is transactable directly in our catalog, whereas some of the other marketplaces you might see out there, in my opinion, inflate a little bit of their selection by sending folks elsewhere, which we found that customers don't prefer. We have a broad selection among ISVs, data providers, and channel partners to make contracting easier, and we're continuing to expand internationally. We recently launched in Qatar and Hong Kong, so now ISVs, data providers, and consulting partners in those areas can transact with Marketplace and data exchange, and we have a lot more what we'll call sellers of record coming in our roadmap in the coming months and years. We've got more than 2 million active subscribers, active subscriptions across more than 310,000 customers, which I think is a pretty broad and deep customer base. Marketplace is a requirement whenever AWS expands into a new region, so we'll continue to expand globally from that angle as well. Multiple categories across, ranging from infrastructure all the way through to the line of business, all of which get consolidated onto the customer's AWS invoice while they continue to grow their relationship with their partners. And then when you look at a typical large enterprise customer, we are now facing off with many different buying centers or personas as we help you go to market and close your deals faster. It often starts with the builders, either to unlock a migration or to build something new, like I said, and maybe in that infrastructure or builder level. Or it may start with a line of business who is either doing the same thing locally in a particular BU, or they're looking to get a fit for purpose SaaS application. It's increasingly also security driven, and our friends at Trend who are on the call today can attest to that. Many of our ISV partners are doing a variety of things to help keep our customers safe, which is job zero at AWS and with a lot of our customers. So security is a very popular and fast growing category for us. And then either way, as these contracts start to be increase in number and value, we end up facing off and integrating with the procurement, legal, and finance teams. And we're finding that once they start to take some number of private offers and start to integrate our APIs into their automation, we are increasingly becoming their favorite channel because of how easy it is, which then also pulls other lines of business that we might not have been in before with them. And then, of course, in 2019, we've become relevant to the chief data officer who's looking across the enterprise on how they manage and onboard data spends. And you kind of really see it's kind of a holistic touch points across these enterprises, which not surprisingly is led by selection that we have across a broad set of domains. So in the infrastructure space, we think about these categories and some subsegments that you see here. I won't go into all of them, but the point here is that it's pretty broad across a wide variety of things that our customers use to help them aid in their cloud journey. And we have a growing amount of selection in what we'll call the business application, or kind of like the horizontal software. stack. So folks like Apptio, Cloud Checker, A Cloud Guru provides training and software around that. Infor for business workflow management, and the like. And this is an area where we're investing to continue to grow and selection as well. And same with industry application software in a particular vertical. So we're increasingly seeing those procurement departments, as the line of business decide they want to go do something that has to go through procurement to come to Marketplace, where we're building co-sell programs inside the vertical as well. And we do this through a wide variety of purchasing models. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because I talked about this throughout our history, but just to kind of round everything out, we support something called BYOL, or bring your own license, which are unlocked with the seller provided, or you provide a license key or a PIN, which helps customers migrate workloads that depend on your solutions that you already have a contract with. Free trials enable customers to try software before they make a large commitment. We have a lot of granularity into how customers can make the decision to buy, whether it be hourly, monthly, or annual contracting. Monthly contracting here, and larger annual multi-contract commits to help customers get larger volume discounts when they commit to a larger upfront contract. And then finally, as our customer usage really scales on a particular product, they're able to do this through a private offer, which they negotiate with you. You set the pricing and terms for as you see fit. And again, all of that would end up showing up on the AWS invoice, and then flowing through the rest of our governance features that our customers are able to use across. So when you kind of look at this continuum, mapped to the various different deployment models and product types we have, whether it be AMIs, containers, SaaS, data, or whatever, there really is an awful lot of flexibility that you have full control over how you decide you want to use to reach your customers and grow your business, which I think you'd be hard pressed to find this amount of breadth anywhere else. So we talked about those two buyer journeys, accelerating migration and then enabling builders to move at speed. And particularly for that second, enabling the builders in an organization to move at speed. We see that a lot of CIO and or procurement functions want that to be done responsibly and in a well-governed way. A lot of large enterprises, you might not be surprised by this, are a little reticent to have hundreds, maybe even thousands of developers being able to spin up lots and lots and lots of third-party software and agree to licensing terms, et cetera, in an ungoverned way. So we've done a number of things over the course of the past couple of years to give customers the controls that they need to still allow for some amount of self-service as they see fit, graduating into private offers, if that's the route that they'll take, so that they can do that. We have a private marketplace capability where customers can curate the catalog down to things that they're comfortable with. The builders in their organization, self-service. We have the API I mentioned before to integrate with procurement systems. We have managed entitlements so that customers can look at the entitlements they have to software that they purchased on Marketplace and farm that out to their organization. And if you see here, we have a quote from one of our leading channel partners, Presidio, Chris Cagnazzi, who we have a great relationship with, talk about how he's seeing customers really optimize their control, governance, procurement on Marketplace today. Another thing that customers really value about Marketplace, which in my opinion, maybe we undersell a bit, is kind of the vetting and the curation process we do across software. And when we survey customers on what they like about Marketplace, one of the words that always bubbles up to the top is trust. And one of the reasons that we've earned this trust is how we curate and monitor monitor the catalog and respond to events. So we're looking with the AWS security team on a regular basis for CVEs and security events in the industry, monitoring all the different bulletins that may come out, reacting to that by going to look through our catalog for things that may be affected. We have a whole process and mechanism around how we reach out to you if there's an impact, and or all your customers. Depending on the severity of the event, we might take the listing down, make sure it gets updated, and then continue this virtuous circle with all of our the AMI software, container software that's listed in the marketplace to continue to, provide our customers with a trusted experience, which I think is not. I think other ISVs have told us that this is super valuable when they might not have the resources to do this at the scale we do it on their own. Another neat thing is how Marketplace is continually sort of woven into the fabric of other AWS initiatives. So another part of the team that I run is called Control Services, where we have a service called Control Tower and a service called Service Catalog that help enterprises govern their cloud landing zones and their fleet. And we heard from customers that they wanted more prescriptive guidance in how they set up AWS broadly in a well-governed way. So a couple of months ago, we launched the management and governance lens as part of our well-architected program to give customers, prescriptive guidance through a white paper and engagement with our SAs, how they can set up their cloud environment in a well-managed and governed way across these 8 dimensions. Now, we don't have time for me to go into each one, but suffice to say that they're all to help our customers govern their environment. And we've went and looked across the Marketplace catalog and the partners that we work with there to make sure that the right ISVs are prompted to the right customers at the right time. And then that Marketplace is the vehicle that then they can deploy those solutions with the customer directly into Control Tower. So as we're starting to do some of these larger scale migrations with customers where they're setting up not just their third-party dependencies, but their fleet and their enterprise environment more broadly, we're making sure that you and your solutions are introduced in the right time and the right context to help them accelerate that migration responsibly. One of the final things I'll cover, and I know Emmeline is going to go into this in a bit more detail later, but I think it's kind of important to point out. I think it's probably safe to venture that all of you would be interested in new customer acquisition, and that's certainly a value that we provide to our ISVs, though we also are accelerating larger contracts, which I'll talk about in just a sec. But so in 2017, we started a very deliberate, what we now call our demand generation engine around driving demand within the AWS customer base and growing the AWS customer base with partner solutions. So we do this across a variety of activities, across a variety of different themes or categories, ranging from infrastructure and security all the way through to industry verticals and software supply chain. And we got a number of different things that I kind of can't get into every single one in the time we have today, but we do a number of both content creation and as well as now we have a self-service academy to help you as a seller once you get started to create all the right bill of materials that'll be put in the right place at the right time for customers through all that we do to help generate demand. And then for mature ISVs who are really leaning into Marketplace and kind of have a multi-directional commitment to growing their business with us, we do even kind of more deliberate demand generation campaigns where we, let's say, run a webinar, get thousands of attendees to come, capture all those leads, drive those down through our ACE portal, which we partner with APN on for lead telemetry, and then pump those out to our demand gen reps, which sit in our sales organization to call down on customers alongside you as an ISV. And if you just see some of the quotes that we have and some of the data that we've collected from some of our higher grossing ISVs, they tell you that they are accelerating deals 30 to 75% faster, 2.5 to 5 times larger than they would on their own, with a higher lead to subscription conversion and more new logos through part of this engine. So we're pretty excited about this. It's an area as our business grows, we're going to continue to disproportionately invest in to kind of help all boats lift with the rising tide, if you will, and an area that I'm continue to be pretty excited about partnering with some of you on to learn how we can do better and drive more business collectively for us. So just to wrap this up, couple of points I'd leave you with before you get into some more of the meat of the content. I think we've been a pretty rapid pioneer of new capabilities. A lot of the stuff that I talked about in our 9-year evolution so far, and by the way, it's still really early, We still have a lot more to do, but we've been pretty quick to react to customer feedback, as any good AWS service would have. And the hits are just going to keep coming. We got a number of things in plan for reInvent this year, and more international reach we have to get to. We do it pretty quickly, in my opinion. A lot of these capabilities, we'll go from working backwards to launch in months sometimes, depending on the context. And we're going to keep doing this as fast as we can. And we're really looking to continue to expand both. I talked about internationally into different regions, expand where, number of channel partners we have to help you expand geographically as well without having to deploy sales resources, and looking at how we get deeper and deeper in, let's say, the vertical or the business applications where we can continue to expand into new personas, all with the notion that we're going to be transforming how enterprises find, subscribe to, deploy, and govern their third-party procurement as they move to the cloud, and really kind of getting a foothold in that procurement department of AWS's largest customers. So with that, I'll wrap up. I think Michael is next. I don't know, Steve, are you going to introduce us over?
Yeah, absolutely. Stephen, thank you so much. I'm really excited to have you back. We'll get a little more engagement. It's so fascinating to have you involved in Service Catalog, the data services component, the data catalog, the marketplace. We're working backwards from 3 different journeys, and they all come together. And I just think all of it together in your message is just perfect for our ISV partners, and really appreciate you sharing that. That was great. Thank you.
Cool. Yep. I'll see you all at the panel, and thanks again for being here, everybody. I can't tell you how grateful we are that you'd spend time with us today. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. So great. So Michael, as Michael comes on camera, let me give just a brief introduction. Michael has been in a really interesting journey at BankUnited. He's the Chief Technology Officer, and in his role, he really assists the bank in navigating some complex compliance issues, as you might imagine, in financial services, and going through the regulatory landscape. He's leading the adoption and the innovation of the cloud. It's been a fantastic story that I wish we had more time for today to talk about the bank's journey over the last couple of years. He's worked with a great group of technologists and partners, where he's really taken the bank with his team through cloud adoption from really early. I remember the early days of dealing with thinking about disaster recovery to really on-premises production and a full data center migration with automation and cloud native development. It's been an amazing people, process, and technology change. Your experience has been fantastic, and I'm really excited for you to share with your background as a buyer through this journey with Marketplace with the group here today. So Michael, let me get out of your way and you take it from here.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you, Steve. So as Steve had alluded to, my name's Michael Lembeck, CTO for BankUnited. And I want to talk to you a little bit today around, how the bank has adopted and adapted some of our processes around the AWS Marketplace. So before I venture into that, let me give you a quick synopsis of BankUnited. So BankUnited is a national bank with headquarters in both Miami and New York. We offer a full range of both consumer and commercial banking services, and with assets in excess of 35 billion overall. So with regards to our journey to AWS Marketplace, I can tell you, being a financial institution, when we first ventured into this, it was a very traditional methodology that we had with regards to our procurement and procurement cycles. We have very rigid rules that are passed down to us from other governmental agencies, being a financial institution that we must abide by. So as you can imagine, there's a degree of rigidity and checks and balances that come into play whenever we look to make any kind of acquisition or procurement for that matter. So as you can imagine, that was a bit of a sticking point when we looked at the AWS Marketplace. There was a bit of a culture shock when our procurement team first saw that, because as Steve had alluded to previously, the thought of all of a sudden tens of hundreds of developers and operational team members being able to access the marketplace and procure things outside of the established guardrails that the bank had stood up. There was a bit of a terror-stricken moment there that, to be honest, took a bit of talking team members down from the cliff, so to speak. We've certainly come a long way from that stance where it was initially, not the least of which with regards to the marketplace, and that we're leveraging this much more heavily than I think we ever have. We've been very early adopters on a number of different facets. I can tell you, based on where we were previously to where we are now, our turnaround time for onboarding and procurement has gone down by about 3/4 compared to what it was previously. One of the things that we were looking to do, as a cloud customer, was to leverage, the technology and innovation of that to be faster, more nimble. And while we were able to accomplish that from an operations perspective, the challenge we were facing is you can't expect ops teams and developers to innovate quickly, and then when they come to the point where they need to leverage another third-party tool set or what have you, tell them, okay, wait, pump the brakes. This is going to take us at least 45 to 60 days for us to get that available to you. That's just not an acceptable model for that type of interaction. So what we've done is we've leveraged the marketplace to help tremendously towards reducing that turnaround cycle, while still being able to adhere to the controls that we have to make sure that we have in place as a financial institution. And what we've done in doing that is taken that a step further, and we've been an early adopter and helped contribute towards the integration to our spend management system, most notably Coupa. And we now have integrations directly through the AWS Marketplace that allows us to go ahead and take that purchase in the marketplace, route it through a Coupa integration, so that way we can go ahead and through Coupa, where we already have certain approval workflows and spend allotments already established in there, we can again go ahead and leverage those guardrails to kind of guide the transaction. So that way we've got the audit pieces that we need to make sure that we can prove that not only do we have these processes, but we are holding by those, and that's where the Coupa integration comes into play. But it also speeds up the process, and that because of the fact that we're transacting through the marketplace, we can cut down the turnaround time to onboard, because we're not technically onboarding another provider. We can actually use our invoicing through the marketplace and what have you to speed up that cycle, kind of similar to what the bank has done traditionally with resellers. But now there's the added benefit that as an enterprise customer that we now have is the fact that we have an enterprise discount program. And one of the things that weighs heavily into your level of discounting in your EDP is your spend in the AWS Marketplace. And I can tell you, we've had to reevaluate our EDP and been able to drive up additional discounts because of the fact that we have exponentially increased our activity within the AWS Marketplace, not only for net new acquisitions, but also for renewals of existing software items as well for the bank. From a experience and from a contract negotiation perspective, this is an area that I think has helped quite a bit, in that we are an advocate, and we leverage the enterprise contract construct, which already comes with pre-negotiated terms that both the bank, as well as I know a number of third parties that sell on the marketplace, have already agreed to, which again makes that process exponentially faster for us as a financial institution, because now we no longer have to go through the process of redlining those agreements and working through that process. I think we can all agree, that's one of the great stalls when it comes to anything from a procurement perspective is, okay, now it goes over to legal, now we get into the back and forth regarding the end user license agreements and so forth and so on, and all the redlining that comes through that. Trust me, I've lived that life before. The enterprise contract comes into play in that that's already agreed upon. If you want to go ahead and add additional terms in terms of volume discounts and what have you, we can do that through amendments to there. But it makes that process, that in the contract negotiation, so much easier because again, that's already been vetted, it's already approved. Now we're just moving forward with something that we already are comfortable with the terms around. From an example in terms of transactions, to be honest with you, it would probably be easier to tell you what we don't funnel through the marketplace. I can tell you from my perspective, that's one of the first questions we ask at this point now, whenever we're looking at anything net new, or even if I'm looking at a renewal, is whether or not the provider supports transactions through the marketplace. And I can tell you on more than one occasion, we have kind of hinted or provided incentives to say, look, perhaps let's have a discussion with some of our AWS account team members to talk through, if you're not able to transact through the marketplace today, how we might be able to do that this time around and maybe going forward in the future as well. And that's something that we have pushed as well, because it's, in my mind, it's advantageous on both sides. And I've, at this point, in terms of, again, example transactions, it runs the full gamut, whether it be, data guys, which I understand is now PKware, Palo Alto, Aviatrix. I mean, we've leveraged a number of tool sets, both infrastructure and co-development wise through this. And again, it speeds up the process. But then again, as I was talking on the example transactions for renewals, that's a great incentive for the bank, because renewals, we knew we were going to plan for those. Those are things that were going to happen. But now we can drive extra value add with those renewals, and that can count towards our EDP spend. And again, can eventually lead to potentially larger platform discounts overall for the bank. So, we're looking to optimize as much as we can, especially on things that we know are a given with some of those renewals. I kind of touched on some of these benefits already in terms of the faster turnaround times, the quicker negotiations, the enablement from the bank's perspective in terms of being able to provide access to these different tool sets to our own engineers, our own developers much faster. We also leverage things such as Stephen had mentioned before, we also leverage the private marketplace to make these tool sets that have already been purchased and vetted and what have you to our own internal team members. So that way, again, in more of a self-service model, they can go ahead and leverage those items that we already own entitlements to, that we've already vetted and approved. So it's the best of both worlds in that we can still provide some level of guardrail and control around that in terms of not allowing team members who aren't approved to commit the bank to certain financial transactions, but we can still provide a level of self-service, so that way we kind of get procurement out of the way, so to speak, in terms of enabling our developers and engineers to go ahead and access the resources and the third-party tools that they need.
Excellent.
At this point, I know we're supposed to have a segue. Steve, I'll go ahead and turn the microphone over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. I love the story. Excited also to have you back on the panel. We'll dive a little bit deeper in a couple areas. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. We really appreciate that. To share the seller journey experience, I'm thrilled to have Yael Terling join us, who's from Trend Micro. She joined the organization in 2015. She's held multiple roles across marketing, sales, business development. Most recently, Yael was the country manager for Trend Micro in Israel, where she managed all aspects of the business there. And in 3 years, she doubled the business and was recognized as a Forbes 30 under 30, which is really exciting. It's a great accomplishment. She recently moved back to the United States to take on the role of Director of Cloud Growth, and is focused on helping Trend Micro's really cloud security business grow directly with AWS. So she's got a great perspective. Her journey's been something I think this audience would find really valuable. And Yael, let me get out of your way and turn it over to you.
Great, thank you so much. Let me just get this set up here. Awesome. Hi, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here. My name is Yael Terjohan, and thank you for the warm introduction. So I'm the Director of Cloud Growth here in the US, as well as I manage the Global Alliance Partnership with AWS. I've been very fortunate to work with AWS for over 6 years. And actually, over the 6 years, I've been working very closely with the AWS Marketplace team. And it's been such a pleasure to see that business grow and accelerate. And I'm really excited to share the experience that we've had and the challenges we've overcome with the field and how this has really helped us accelerate our business here internally. But before we jump into the details, let me just quickly highlight who Trend Micro is. For those of you that don't know, Trend Micro is a global cybersecurity organization. We've been around for more than 30 years. We're headquartered out of Japan. We're public on the Nikkei. And actually, since going public, we've been profitable for every quarter for more than 25 years. We're 7,000 employees worldwide in about 65 plus countries. And we're honored and happy to serve 500,000 commercial customers worldwide. As I said, we've been working with AWS for more than 10 years. We are an advanced technology partner, and we've been actively engaging with AWS teams around new technologies, operations, and marketing. We work with AWS to ensure that our security is optimized for current and future AWS services, and that our customers use and leverage every day. We've been strategically aligned with the AWS Marketplace group. We have been a design contributor to several of their services, private offers, channel private offers, as Stephen Orban mentioned earlier in the keynote. And we're really aligned in bringing enterprises more streamlined and automated billing and procurement options. So let's jump into why we really doubled down on AWS Marketplace. So to take you back around in 2014, as I said, Trend Micro is an older organization. We have our traditional business model of going through a distributor and a partner. And we, were introduced to the AWS Marketplace, and we really saw that this is going to be the future of how organizations procure software. And so we wanted to make sure we were on the forefront of that. And so we quickly started working with the AWS Marketplace. We listed our solution there. And through the years, this big bet for us has really paid off, as it has really increased our revenue, our reach and scale, and it has improved our go-to-market. So like AWS, we are obsessed with our customers. Everything we do is to ensure our customers are secure and to ensure our customers are successful in their migration to the cloud. So traditionally, as I said, Trend Micro sells in a two-tiered model. We work with distributors and partners, but the more we spoke to customers, we understood that the way they were procuring and the future of procurement was really going to change. And so we needed to make sure we were available and accessible for customers to buy us in this new way. Some of the reasons why customers really, want to buy through the marketplace, and we just had Michael talk about his experience from the bank. The biggest reasons we really see is it's simple to transact. It gives customers the ability to have flexible payment options. For many organizations, AWS is a pre-approved vendor, so they don't have to add a ton of new vendors to work with. They can just all procure it through AWS, and it's all in their one AWS bill. So it's much faster for them to try a solution and buy a product, which we've seen. Also, AWS continually is innovating and making it easier for customers. So, there's different options for them to buy. They can buy upfront. There's a pay-as-you-go model. They have monthly options. So there's a lot of options that really makes it easy for the customer. It improves their time to market and value of speed of application deployment. Also, we talked about, 50% of their AWS Marketplace purchase counts towards their spend commit. So something we've seen from our end is, some of these customers have very, very high commits with AWS. And when it comes to the end year, they realize they need to spend more money to hit that commit. And so deals that we would traditionally do through a partner or through a distributor, the customer comes to us and says, hey, I have, I need to spend some more money with AWS, and they end up buying through the marketplace just to help them hit that quota, which has helped us. I've led sales teams, and I know how sellers are motivated, and we all know that change is very hard. Most of our sellers, they're very used to the traditional way of selling. And so when we first introduced Marketplace, I remember 5 years ago, many of our sellers, if I would get on a call to pitch Marketplace to our customer, talk about it, the seller would try and mute me and take me off the call. And I can understand that, right? They have a quota that they have to hit every year, and doing an upfront deal that's large, multi-year deal is much easier than this. It took some time and enablement for them to understand why these customers want to buy through the marketplace. As I said, because the marketplace gives the customer the ability to pay monthly or pay as you go, the seller wasn't getting that large, big deal up front. Instead, their customer was spending a little bit each month, which ended up being a higher value over the years. But to the seller, as we all know, they want that big upfront paycheck and commission. But, quickly, they recognized all the benefits that the marketplace has. They have happier customers. We have seen historically that deal time to close is faster, so the sales cycle is shorter through the marketplace. I put around quotation marks here, it's paperless deals. Like I said, for many of these customers, Trend Micro or AWS is a pre-approved vendor, so they don't need to add Trend Micro or the partner as a new vendor. They don't need to go through legal. We've also, of course, introduced incentives and accelerators, right? We were so bought into the AWS Marketplace, we wanted our field to see the benefits, and so we introduced some of those awesome kickbacks. Additionally, very important, as I said, we work very closely with AWS, and by selling through the marketplace, we were able to get a better and closer relationship with the field was getting tighter with their counterparts at AWS, which helped us get into some new accounts and have expansions. So the field has slowly over time and over the years understood the benefits of Marketplace. And now we're getting, all our field is doing multiple deals through the Marketplace, which is awesome to see. Then, of course, for the organization, right? So this big, bet for us on Marketplace that we decided on a couple of years ago, we had our top level, our COO, CFO, everybody was super bought in because we knew that this was going to help us increase our revenue. It was going to help us increase our reach and scale and improve our go-to-market. It's really become a one-stop shop for us. We sell our support services on Marketplace and, of course, our software. As I said, shorter sales cycles, which is, we all want that. Reoccurring revenue, right? So everything is moving to SaaS, and our shareholders care about run rates and monthly run rates, and the marketplace helps us achieve those goals. Additionally, a benefit that we saw is we have been really able to stay in the forefront of innovation because of how closely we work with AWS. AWS has so many customers and they get so much customer feedback, and AWS has been sharing that back with us so we could improve our solution and our products. And like I said, by selling through the marketplace, we've really increased our co-sell motion with AWS, which has helped us reach a lot of new customers. We've really seen also the customer journey has been revolutionizing and innovating at increasingly fast paces. For the first time ever, customers don't need to talk to a seller, to a vendor, and they can try our product. Back in the day, if we wanted a customer to try our product, they needed to talk to the partner, a seller. It took time. Now we have hundreds of customers going to the AWS Marketplace and subscribing to our service, to our software, and deploying it in their environment and using it without talking to anybody. This is what we're seeing as the modern buyer. But there's a lot of opportunities there, because as we see these customers that don't want to talk to us using our products, the more they get ingrained, we have the ability to approach these customers and to grow with them and to offer them, discounts by moving over to private offers. And so at the bottom there, you see is more of the high touch prospects. Those are some of the large enterprises we work with. They want to buy through the AWS Marketplace. And so, of course, they want as well discount pricing. So that's where we introduce the private offers. The channel is still involved. So there's the channel partner private offers for those organizations on the call today that, also sell through the partners. We don't leave them behind. They're still part of the transaction and the deal. And as I said, these are more of our traditional buyers. So what did we do and what was really our go-to-market and what changes did we make? So to make this successful, we, as I said, it's been a long journey and we've really learned over time and we had to change a lot of things internally. First is changing the compensation model. Of course, sellers, what do they care about is money, commission, how do they close new business? So it was important if we were going to move the way we sell our solution from the traditional way to this new way, we needed to change our compensation plans. So what we introduced is something called a committed consumption contract, where a customer who still wants to do pay-as-you-go, they commit a certain spend. We look at their environment, we give them an estimate of what we think they'll spend over a year. They commit to us, they don't pay anything up front, but we as an organization decided that we're gonna pay our field, our sellers, on that committed amount. So we were paying our field up front. And then when the customer hit their spend, and I guess in return, the customer was obviously getting a better price, a better discount. And we've seen customers loving this model because they're paying as they go. They pay monthly, but they get these discounts because they committed. Our sellers love this model because they're getting paid up front, which obviously is what they like. So we introduced also incentives and different spiffs. Enablement has been really, really important. It takes time, right? There's, Trend Micro, we have 55 solutions that we sell. And adding a new procurement method, it took time to educate our field, but we continually day to day are educating our field and ensuring that they have all the tools and resources to understand the benefits of Marketplace and how they can sell through it. We introduced a cloud desk to support our deals. So we have one in each of our key global regions. We introduced new reporting, new dashboards. We also have a dedicated engineers and product managers who, work very closely with AWS to continually update the way we're listed on the AWS Marketplace and the way customers can procure us. And as I said, we really ensured that the channel is still involved. We've been around for a long time. We work with many partners and we didn't just want to leave them. So we made sure that they were part of this, part of the innovation and helping us grow our business. A key thing or something new that we did this year that has really, really helped us is we introduced and built a new team that's really focused on marketplace growth. So they're called the Sales Acceleration Managers. A few of them are actually on the call today. And their main role is to bridge the gap between the AWS field and the Trend Micro field and to grow our marketplace. So they are enabling our field. They're working with AWS. They're staying on the forefront of this innovation to ensure that we're set up and ready to offer our customers this new way of procuring. And by having this team that's focused on marketplace growth, we have seen incredible growth year over year. We're seeing more of our field understanding the value of marketplace, that whole enablement piece I spoke about earlier, and we're hoping to continue to see this growth. I did want to share one quick success story with one of our public references, Cloud Nexa. They're one of the many, many customers who we've helped deploy secure, scalable environment. They've been actually a customer of ours since 2014. And just recently, we helped them save at least 50% of their spend through metered billing on AWS Marketplace. Our solution really allowed them to provide a foundation for managed security or their customers, generating new business opportunities and helping their customers scale and innovate. So as you see, this has been a long journey. We've learned a lot, and I'll be on the panel later today to answer any questions you have. So hopefully this was helpful and insightful, but really, as I said earlier on, the marketplace has been great, great stream for us to grow our revenue, to reach and get new logos, and to improve our go-to-market. So thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. That's such a great story, and I love the way that the teams have integrated together. It's been a really, really great opportunity for all of us, and so we really appreciate your partnership. And we're excited to get you back on the panel here to go a little bit deeper. We got some great questions from the audience. We'd love to push back your way here when we get back to the panel. So it's 10:36 Eastern time. Thank you so much to the Trend Micro folks that have provided an Uber Eats code that should have been sent to each one of our attendees. We'd like you to have lunch on us today. So we're going to take a brief break for you to be able to set up your Uber Eats for delivery at the end of our call and for you to go ahead and get that ball rolling. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. It's now 10:37 a.m. We'll join back together at 10:47 Eastern time. We'll all be here, but we'll be on mute. If you need anything, feel free to use the chat in the interim, especially if you have any challenges or you didn't get your code, something like that, please let us know through the chat. We're happy to help make all of that work for you. And again, thanks so much for being here. We'll catch everybody back up in about 10 minutes. Okay, looks like we're right at 10:47 Eastern time. If the panelists could all unmute and come back on video, we'll get going again. So again, thanks for everybody's time this morning. We've got a lot of great content remaining. If there are any remaining issues relative to Uber Eats codes or things of that nature, just feel free to put a message in the chat. We're taking them in and making sure that we've got that covered for you. So again, thank you for being here. We're going to shift gears and we're going to go into a panel discussion. So I'm really looking forward to going a little bit deeper with some of our guests we've already had this morning, but also from a new face here, Emmeline Wang. Let me introduce everybody to Emmeline. She has over 20 years experience working across many industries in e-commerce and global distribution and software and technology. She's a leader with a focus on API products and platform programs. She's with AWS on the Marketplace team, and she's internationally recognized as a speaker and a thought leader in the business of APIs. We're really thankful to have her here on the team. She's got a background in developer community engagement and working on API product teams and building APIs for internal and external stakeholders. She's been a great help to this team and to the overall Marketplace effort. So Emmeline, excited to have you on the panel and certainly excited to hear your deeper message at the conclusion of our Q&A session. So thanks for being here. We really appreciate you.
Thanks, Stephen.
So great, let's jump in, and I'd love to start with Michael from a buyer perspective with our first question. So Michael, if you're there, would love to hear from you, in the transformation that you've undertaken at BankUnited. You mentioned that it involved, looking at different roles a little bit differently. I'd just love to hear how was the transformation in people and process within procurement specifically? And from your perspective, how did it change the way that procurement interacted with vendors, software vendors specifically, as you guys have gone to Marketplace? Tell us just a little bit more about that context.
So I have found that it has made them a little more approachable. I will admit to you, because of the amount of effort and legwork that went into a lot of the upfront work, there was typically and understandably a bit of reticence in terms of, can we avoid having to, start a new provider relationship? And I think what we've been able to do is to, make that a little bit, more frictionless, for lack of better words. So, we are more apt to get into new and out of, some existing, relationships, because it's just the nature of how we're doing things more faster, more fluidly now. And I think the AWS Marketplace has helped a lot in terms of enabling us to do that from a third-party tooling perspective. And honestly, and I know Stephen mentioned this before, we're also using it. We're an early adopter of using the Marketplace for professional services as well, which, we're starting to, again, adjust some of our processes in terms of, reviewing statements of work and things of that nature, with that new construct. So still very much a work in progress, but it's amazing to me how much we have adopted and adapted, and to be honest, in my mind, pretty short order considering we are a bank.
Yeah, it's been a great story and an amazing journey. So thank you, Michael. That's fantastic. We had a really good question from the audience for Yael. The question is, really like to know more about what your processes have looked like for informing buyers that they're able to access drawdown through purchasing in the Marketplace on their EDP that Michael had talked about earlier. Do you typically, Yael, or your team speak with stakeholders that are already aware of this purchasing advantage, or are you kind of early setting in that direction? And maybe how do you have that dialogue? How do you teach your sellers to have that dialogue with end customers?
Yeah, that's a great question. And AWS Marketplace actually has some really great resources. So they have something called a Marketplace Customer Advisor. They're, all over the US, and they have their regions, and we work very closely with them. As a vendor, it's not our job, right, to educate the customer on the Marketplace or tell them about that. We also don't always know if a customer has an EDP. This is, private information that AWS knows. So what we do actually is we engage our marketplace customer advisor, and we work in lockstep with them and the customer. And so some customers, they don't know that they can have this drawn down. So the marketplace customer advisor will let them know. They work with them, they educate them. But of course, some of the customers that are big buyers and spenders with AWS Marketplace and have been procuring software through there for a long time, they'll come to us and let us know, hey, we have this, we want to draw down. Can we buy your solution through the marketplace? So to answer that, basically the customers that have the experience, they come to us and let us know, but the other customers, we just work in lockstep with the marketplace customer advisors.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's a benefit, but it's also a bit of an art to understand exactly where every customer is and what's important to them. And it sounds like you've done a great job through this specialized advisor to really help coach the field on a deal by deal basis. That's an awesome best practice. That's great. Emily, we also had another question from the audience today, and I'll just read it verbatim. But in regards to deal acceleration, are companies who list in Marketplace with a private offer seeing the same increase in sales revenue or throughput as they are with a standard offering through the Marketplace? Maybe give us some context in terms of what you see overall.
Absolutely. That's a great question. Thank you, Stephen. So to my understanding, it sounds like we're talking about the product listing or what we see publicly versus the high touch or customized sales option or the private offers. And so I was just going to mention that an ISV having a product listing up in the marketplace is the first step, but actually activating that listing involves training your field sales. And especially if you're partnered with AWS, then you would be able to do what we call co-selling with AWS. And that's what activates that high touch field sales piece so that as an ISV, your field understands how to position the AWS Marketplace, as well as, is this a good opportunity for co-selling with AWS? And so that's kind of the context. And then the other piece I was going to mention is both myself and Stephen Orban, and you've heard from Michael and Yale, right? We've talked about as a whole the fact that when an ISV compares how they're transacting through Marketplace versus going direct, over time, they're seeing up to a 30 to 50% acceleration, meaning the deal closes faster. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's great, Emily. But let me ask you a follow-up question. You know, a lot of early marketplace experiments for our ISV customers, you know, it involves a bit of a transition from maybe a highly customized model of bespoke selling into something that maybe it's a little more standardized. How do you help organizations, or what's your guidance on, Emmeline, on how they make that transition or consider their options using Marketplace?
Sure. So I'll cover it in depth in my session as to exactly how do you get started as a seller. Also, the overall advice that I would give an ISV that's just starting your marketplace journey is match your exact go-to-market strategy that you have today, your product strategy, how you reach your audience, and then work with your marketplace business development manager to properly package your offering as well as your go-to-market motion.
That's fantastic. That's great. Good. Thank you, Emily. And really looking forward to your in-depth presentation next. I think it'll be really worthwhile for everyone. Michael, I want to come back to you. And it's kind of an integration question. You mentioned it kind of in passing, but I do think it's really interesting is that you are using Coupa at the bank, at BankUnited, to manage the end-to-end procurement process. This was even probably likely before you were a marketplace user as an organization. Tell us about that integration. How did it go? Are those, what were the advantages of doing that? Tell us a little bit about that part of the onboarding process for you.
Oh, no problem. We've actually been working really closely with the marketplace team to develop that, to be honest with you. It started out understandably a little rough around the edges, but we have iterated on that and come a long way. And we we had significant skin in the game because by being able to leverage that integration with Coupa, it allowed us to not have to reinvent the wheel. And what I mean by that is we already had established approval workflows. We already had established spend limits that certain associates would have within Coupa, that we could make sure that that was already represented and leverage all those existing investments that we already made in that platform, and didn't have to, again, reinvent the wheel just because we wanted to go ahead and transact through the marketplace. So it actually worked really well into our advantage by working closely with the team to, iterate on that integration to where it is today. And it's actually working out really well for us at this point.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's great to hear, because I think, that Stephen had mentioned this, and I think it's probably going to come up this afternoon or next in Emmeline's presentation around, enterprises are absolutely making sure metering and management of licensing just is so critical, not just from an economic standpoint, but from a governance standpoint. And so the idea that you could take existing frameworks for procurement and management and apply them in this new medium is really exciting. That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Michael. That's awesome.
No, it just makes it that much more approachable to your point. Nope, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, it just makes it that much more approachable to your point.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Michael. That's great. Yael, I want to turn back to you. You've got a lot of history, in your organization working with AWS, so it's a great test case to see. These are not, short-term experiments. These have been long-term journeys together. As sellers, I think every ISV, and I think Stephen mentioned this earlier, everybody wants logo acquisition. They want to grow. We want to reach new markets and new customers in all segments of the market. How is that co-selling motion between the two organizations been helped by being a part of Marketplace? I'd love a little more context there. In the field, how does it really support the sellers working more closely together?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I kind of talked about, we have the customers that are tech touch, and then we have the high touch. So for the tech touch customers, those are customers that we, maybe never spoken to before. They're going on the marketplace. They need, a software security solution. They're buying, they're subscribing to our service. They're paying as they go, and they're using Trend Micro Solutions, right? And so for those customers, we want to make sure that they're getting the support they need, and as they continue to use more, getting the benefits with better pricing, so we can move them over to private offer. That's when we really, start co-selling with the AWS sellers in the field. We bring them on. They help us get connected to these customers. So we've seen that sales play work really, really well this year, where we take our public customers or public paying customers, right? They're paying list price. And with the help of AWS, we can move them over to private offers where they, have a committed spend with us, and we can offer them the support that they need to ensure that they're more successful. But in general, as I mentioned, we work very closely with the Marketplace customer advisors. So any customer that we're engaged with, that we're selling our cloud security solution, we are always involving AWS, and they've helped us really take these customers to Marketplace and to help us accelerate the sales cycle and land some new logos.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Yael. Awesome. Appreciate you. Stephen, you're back. Welcome. Glad to have you back here. Let me ask you a question. So we've got a lot of revenue leaders from ISVs here on the call. And, when you've been in an ISV for, a decade or more, you sometimes, need to be a bit of a snowflake to serve enterprise customers to win business and win logos. And adopting a cloud-centric, not only selling motion, but customer engagement model can be a little bit different, and it could be a little daunting. What advice do you have for revenue leaders around how do we iteratively start this journey and begin to explore it? And I'd love for you to point to ways we could help them at AWS in that early stage journey.
Yeah, great question, Steve. Thanks. And a lot of my answer is going to just be weaving in a couple of things that we've just heard from Yael and Emmeline and also Michael from the customer side. But I'd start by saying, selling on Marketplace is just like anything. You get in what you put out to a large degree. And listing, I think Emmeline said this, listing is the first step to make sure your offerings are available to customers. And certainly, we have demonstrated and have many cases where customers self-service to those things and find a solution and start to kick the tires. And then, as Yael said, that they ultimately kind of grow into a private offer selling motion that we'll continue to work with ISVs on bigger and greater co-sell support. But first and foremost, you have to be there in order to for that to take effect. But even beyond that, really thinking about what the right way is to motivate your field sales teams, what the right way we're going to do demand generation and marketing together, what the right way to structure and price your listings, which might be different for the self-service motion versus the private offer motion, and what channel partners you're going to work with. There is an iterative process and a journey. We do have a few ISVs now who kind of start all at once and are kind of committed to doing all of that up front. But a lot of them are also still, all right, well, prove it to me. And let's iterate it on it by first getting the listing going. Let's do the first couple of private offers. Let's do a couple of things to get customers excited about it. But at the end of the day, when you hear some of the anecdotes or the data points that we said before, where some of these deals are closing 30 up to 75% faster and they're bigger, it's largely because it's really a co-selling thing. It's not a AWS sells it for you. My customer advisor team and the AWS field team, by and large, are very, very good at making sure customers are aware of the AWS value proposition, including Marketplace. And then we partner with, let's say, a Yale's team to make sure that the customer also understands the Trend Micro value proposition, and we kind of do that together. And that's because we're both kind of committed to growing each other's business in that way. So I recognize that change is hard. I recognize that change in business models can be scary. We're happy to work with you. Our category leaders are happy to work with you to run models and spreadsheets to show you what that would look like, given whether or not you would want to go small, medium, or large, depending on kind of your level of commitment and how we could sort of path out a journey for what that would look like in various different scenarios. But, at the end of the day, you get what you put in.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I would just love your perspective too, as well, on, you could A/B test a lot of things as you're kind of entering the market. So as a follow-up, I would love to hear an example maybe where an ISV in working with us decided that we want to put one portion of the portfolio, perhaps to market test on Marketplace before we go to another, or perhaps they T-shirt size their end customer business. How do they consider, I know there's the opportunity to go all in, but is there some examples of best practices around A/B testing and kind of evaluating best ways to reach different markets, in your opinion?
Yes, I would say there's a couple of different motions we see there. And a lot of it depends on how well your service is set up to be consumed in like a pay-as-you-go incremental model. If it's not, your options are maybe somewhat more limited to just kind of dip your toe in the water and test just a few things. We will have some ISVs who will put up a kind of pay-as-you-go listing with a very small number of units, just to kind of see what sort of nibbles that they would get, and maybe might not be ready when the private offer comes because they don't have the right listing and the right contracting model ready or thought through. So I think I would encourage all of you, as you sort of start this journey, to kind of think about both of those sort of models and what you're going to need, and even if they're not just readily available on day one, because they certainly don't have to be. We don't have a requirement that they are. At least you've kind of thought through what you're going to do once that happens, where a customer does start to like your service and then wants to do something bigger with you, what's going to happen. And again, that's something my team is more than happy to work through with all of you here.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, Stephen, that's a great response. It's a fantastic segue into the last portion of our agenda, and I can't reiterate enough for all the panelists. Thank you so much for being here. I think all the content was very worthwhile, and I think everybody is saying, let's really jump into the details. Malene, why don't you take it from here and help really bring us up into the programs at a much more programmatic level. We're really looking forward to your presentation. So let me get out of your way and you take it from here.
Thank you, Stephen. Hi, everyone, and thank you, panelists, for such a great section. So I'm going to go into not only the nuts and bolts, but also exactly, walking through the terminology, right? You just heard quite a bit of terminology there, and I want to make sure to level set and set the stage properly so that you sort of understand where you can start. And we're going to focus on the ISV seller persona in this particular section of the presentation. And so I'm going to start with a quote from from Auth0. And so Eric Snyder, he has been a fantastic partner of AWS. He talks about how 90% of our transactions are private offers. The flexibility to deliver an AWS Marketplace private offer enables a custom configuration for each customer. Our buyers know that they can do business in a way that they're accustomed to. And, Yale mentioned that in the Trend Micro presentation where, they really saw Marketplace as the future of where procurement happens, and they wanted to stay ahead and meet their customer there. In addition, I wanted to talk about the fact that, so I'm one of many category leads in the AWS Marketplace, where we're specifically focused on growing a particular category, but we have access to all 50 categories to properly position your product. So today we're going to talk about the flywheel effect. So Marketplace is truly a flywheel. So I'm actually from Iowa, even though I'm here in Dallas, Texas, where I'm based. But flywheel is a piece of farming equipment, and it takes a moment to get that momentum going. And so we're going to talk about how to set a really strong foundation as you're working with AWS. Traditionally, you might have seen AWS as your cloud computing or infrastructure provider, but did you consider that you can level up that conversation to really see AWS as a partner in the field when we engage in co-selling together, where some of those deals may be a great fit for AWS Marketplace, and we'll go through what those characteristics look like. And so, as I mentioned in the panel before, what you'll want to do today is to understand how you reach your current customers, how they like to buy, and kind of their particular journey to the cloud. And then you're able to meet them there by becoming an ISV seller on Marketplace. Also, you want to train your field sales to ask, customer, do you have a cloud commit spend with AWS? Right? So that's the first way that they can kind of position to see if that's a great opportunity for co-selling. And then the second question after that one would be, would you like to, would you be interested in learning about how to close this deal through Marketplace, especially if you're working with a customer that's from a highly regulated industry, or there's some cases, for example, if you're selling to public sector, where you can literally bypass an RFP process or just streamline a situation that is very difficult to get through when you're trying to sell directly. Marketplace is a great way to help unblock those opportunities. We're also going to touch a little bit about strategies that ISVs use Marketplace for. So as an ISV, depending on where you're based and the types of products that you sell and the industries that you sell to, your strategy is going to be different from another ISV seller on Marketplace. So we're going to talk about that. And then finally, we're going to talk about the hands-on approach, right? Exactly what does it take to get on Marketplace if I'm not there today and I can see that, my ecosystem or my landscape is in the Marketplace. So we're going to talk about how you'll register to become a seller, which is just entering tax and banking information. And then earlier in the panel, we talked about, do you want to do A/B testing? And what I recommend is that you want to list your star products. You want to list what customers want to buy and that you currently sell today, right? In addition to products that you're wanting to even launch into the market, right? Some of our ISVs work with us to be a launch partner for, new portions of their platform. And then professional services. So professional services is all encompassing, right? It talks about your certification and training. It talks about support packages. And it's basically anything that you currently sell with your product today. And you can list that on the Marketplace. And the best part about professional services is it's private offer only, and it doesn't require any integration or engineering resources. So you're able to list the professional services listing very quickly. And so that's a huge advantage there. We're also going to talk about how, in addition to having your presence in Marketplace, that you want to do ongoing enablement with your sales teams, as well as doing intelligent, prioritized, and regular reviews of your pipeline. So if you're a partner with AWS today, then you'll be using a shared CRM where basically you would be able to put opportunities that you need co-sell support on, and vice versa, except it's basically an AWS sourced opportunity to come in that way. So let's level set a little bit. The word customer, right? We're all customer obsessed. However, how many of you know that you are currently buying on Marketplace today? And then how many of you know that you're a seller on Marketplace? It's very likely that you're both. And if you're not, let's talk about how to discover the fact that you could be leaving money on the table yourself and savings, as well as, from a buyer or customer standpoint, the same thing, where if you're not utilizing Marketplace on either side, there may be benefits that you're not unlocking. So let's talk a little bit about why Marketplace exists. You've heard Stephen Orban's think big view of it, and now I'll kind of explain it from the view of operationalizing it. So customers have been trying to accelerate their journey to the cloud, either through modernization or migration or a combination of both. And what happened was they came to us and they said, we need a better way to find solutions that are built on AWS that are also easy for us to be able to try and use, so that we can make a decision about whether or not we want to adopt it as an organization. And so the reason why that's important is rapid innovation is really key to differentiating yourself. And the more that you're able to quickly innovate by trying new things and equipping your team to try new things, the more that you're able to find solutions that are working better for your customers. So you can kind of see the fact that depending on where you and or your customer is on their cloud migration journey, you're able to offer your product and they're able to reach your product in a way that helps them, whether they're building a project or whether they're doing a large scale enterprise sort of strategic motion over many years. And so that's why Marketplace was born in 2012. And likely you've heard about Snowflake's journey on the Marketplace. So you can actually take a look at their listing today, right? They've got a consumption based listing, and they've been able to really help customers save money, right? By being available through the Marketplace, which is more important than ever. And then I wanted to mention, right, that in the history of all of AWS, right, we've had 107 price reductions. And so AWS Marketplace not only is about getting the right tools, but it's also about having visibility into what you have and being able to save more. The other piece that's really interesting, since I oversee low and no code ISVs, as well as full lifecycle API management and integration, so I'll kind of speak to my space, is the fact that sales cycles are typically very long, right? Because very often on the API side, we need to do a POC, right? And we need to kind of prove out the technology. And so what's fantastic about the Marketplace is if the deal is able to close faster, you're getting help, right, from AWS from a co-selling standpoint, and you're able to sell faster, then that's really a great way, right, for your company to continue to grow. And the way that you're able to grow by selling faster is by using not only private offers, but also being able to engage your channel today with the private offer motion, where it's basically connecting the dots of the triangulation. So typically, many of these system integrators and global system integrators, it's very often that they're managing the AWS account on behalf of your customer. And so it's very likely that your customer is going to be delighted by the fact that they can obtain your product and continue to work with their managed service provider. The other piece I was going to mention is every aspect of Marketplace was designed to help you sell faster. And so we have two different contracting mechanisms. One is the standardized license terms, and the other one is the enterprise license terms. You can use those to help you sell faster and reduce any sort of back and forth legal negotiations like the ones that Michael talked about earlier that he had to use before he was using Marketplace. However, you're also able to upload your own agreement into the EULA. So that piece is very important. The other piece, as I mentioned earlier, with registering and then putting up your listings, is now your customers can search for software and services all in one place. And then, as I mentioned earlier, where both as a seller and a buyer, you're able to get your specific data from AWS Marketplace. And so that's really going to help, right, when you have business reporting and ways to see how your campaigns perform, right, as a seller through Marketplace, and then also just getting the intelligence that you need to make sure that you're spending the right money on the right things at the right times. So we've talked a little bit about how Marketplace works, and I just wanted to show you kind of this particular ecosystem where today we've got over 10,000 listings. And how do you stand out, right, when you know that there's that breadth of offering through the Marketplace? So the first piece is, of course, as we talked about, self-service. So if that's your strategy today, then it's a great idea, right? So for example, if you're doing any kind of marketing or go-to-market, Marketplace is a very natural call to action. And if you're a partner with AWS, it's also a great way to highlight the collaboration of you and AWS, right, by using Marketplace as a call to action. And then what happens is on the back side of that product listing, what we call the AWS Marketplace Management Portal, which is separate from your AWS console, but connected. The AWS Marketplace Management Portal is where those deals that your reps are negotiating would then go into a piece of software, right, that basically holds the terms of the private offer. And the terms are still between you and the customer. So let's dive a little bit deeper into onboarding. I'm going to cover three main topics. The first one is your product strategy. The second one is your go-to-market, and then ongoing enablement. So Yale mentioned that there are great resources from Marketplace. We don't recommend that you go it alone, right? Please engage with us because we have sales playbooks and ways for you to really highlight your solution and the solution and the sales sort of motions that you go to market today so that it matches what you're doing as an organization. You can do that through Marketplace. So in terms of Marketplace, what's fantastic is you're reaching not only the technical audience and the solution architects, if your product is deeply technical, but you're also reaching non-technical audiences, right? Such as CMOs, which if in the case that the CMO is non-technical, they may have analysts and other folks who might not need to do any sort of undifferentiated heavy lifting in the code, but they want to be able to use intelligent automation, right, that's available in Marketplace. And so Marketplace is reaching both the decision maker and the procurement side of the house, as well as the technical influencers that help those decisions, to help the procurement decisions happen when you're using Marketplace. It's very likely that your customer has shortlisted what they're looking for. And so we can help with that. And so if you think of your product strategy in that way, that you're going to be reaching the hands-on keyboard technical audience, as well as decision makers, then you can design it in this way. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to work with your business development manager with Marketplace. to understand, how much of your sales is going direct versus through channel today. So I'm going to just start with a scenario where if your strategy is high touch sales versus self-service, then you can initially start to design your product listing that's very friendly for private offers. And I can kind of show you what that looks like. And then if you're interested, say, 80% of your business goes through channel, then what you'll want to do is you'll want to map. So today we've got 200 solution providers and 500 active system integrators and channel partners. So that's 700 channel partners where you may likely already work with them. And so what you'll want to do is you'll want to self-authorize. I would start with your top channel partners in the AWS Marketplace management portal to be able to do, basically you authorize them to resell your product. And that can either be done in a sort of blanket or systematic way, or you can get very granular to offer it either just per deal or for a specific channel partner. And so those are things that are really important because we want to match your ecosystem today as you're then using Marketplace as a mechanism, possibly for internationalization. And then you'll want to activate, if you're not yet a partner, co-selling with AWS, to where if you're a partner, then you're able to, as I mentioned, share leads and basically request the type of help that your field sales needs from AWS, whether technical or business presentation, to basically help you close more deals. And then think about, how does your customer want to deploy your product? So for example, the SaaS model is very interesting to where if they click to subscribe or they accept the private offer, then they would be able to step through your current SaaS offering the way that they do today, to where if they're a new customer, then they would enter their new information. The only piece that's different is then the billing piece, which is handled by AWS Marketplace. And if they are an existing customer, then the billing can go through AWS Marketplace, and they would then be able to log in and continue to use their product. However, say you have a situation where your customer wants to run your product in their virtual private cloud. If that's the case, then your product listing would be what we call an Amazon machine image. And so I can talk a little bit more about that and show you some examples. And so we're going to look at some of the same slides that Stephen Orban showed earlier, right, to give it now a new perspective, since you've heard from Trend Micro and BankUnited and from Stephen. And now I'll talk to, great, how do I use this as a strategic channel? So one thing is you can look at Marketplace, right? Are some of the competing solutions there today? If they're not today, then you actually have a first mover advantage. And that's fantastic because that's something that you can offer your customers, right? That makes you unique and makes you stand out. We're also going to look at private offers in the lens of the purchasing models. So keep in mind that bring your own license and free trial, right? Those are aspects where, right, it's not the private offer that's the vehicle, right? Where basically it's helping your customer to realize, right, their particular workload in the cloud. However, when it comes to the hourly or consumption or the monthly or annual contracts, right, that's where we can talk about the private offer model. And then I'm actually going to show you a few examples that I have in the background here. So if you give me a quick moment. Okay. So what I've done here is I've queued up a couple of things that might be helpful. So today, if you go to the Amazon Marketplace, at the top in the search bar, you can search by ISV or product name. You can also search by delivery method. And so earlier we talked about Snowflake, right? And how they're really utilizing Marketplace. And if your product team is concerned about pricing, take a look at their public pricing. So notice that, right, they don't quite show a lot of information, right? Each unit is a cent of usage. And so you can see that then they can use this listing to then conduct private offers, as we mentioned, what we call kind of on the back end. So as an ISV seller, you have access to that portal. And the first step is you have to have a public listing. And then the second piece is, so if you take a look, right, Trend Micro, not only are we showing kind of Trend Micro's products, but it also shows some complementary products, right? Maybe other companies have done an OEM or have partnered with Trend Micro. And then on the left side, you can see how a buyer would refine some of these results. And then I'm trying to navigate here. So in the Trend Micro Cloud 1, you can see that not only do they have the product, but they've also associated their service. And then bottom, they add more dimensions, which it's different from Snowflake, right? You can add the dimensions that you want customers to see. And then as mentioned, right, there's kind of the EULA, but then on the private offer piece, you can either use a standard or enterprise contract, or you can upload your own MSA. And then what we recommend is, if you are really targeting private offers, put an evergreen email where the buyer can reach out to your sales team to be able to initiate the conversation for a private offer. And then I'm also showing you kind of, when you go to delivery methods, so here are kind of the 50 categories I talked about, which are both horizontal and from an industry perspective. And under delivery methods, if you're looking to how to package your professional service, then you can look at the ones that have already been published, and you can kind of see just the variety that's there. And my apologies that me trying to do a live demo and navigating Zoom. But you'll just be able to see, I believe we have over 1,000 professional services since we launched this type at reInvent in 2020. And so when you go publicly, you can kind of do your research about, how are people pricing their listings today. And then my apologies for it being slow. And then here's another sort of listing where this is very private offer focused, right? So they're showing 12, 24, and 36 months. They're also showing kind of the highlights and what cloud native services their particular platform fits well with, as well as some customers. And then HashiCorp is a seller where you can kind of see some of their Amazon machine images, their AMI listings where customers would pay for the usage of their product as well as the underlying AWS usage fee, so such as the EC2. So now let me get back to the deck here. So now we'll kind of round things out by giving you some best practices of go-to-market and what's available to you today. One moment here. So there are several tools that you might not be aware of that are available to you if you are a current seller and you're not seeing, right, how do I get started with Marketplace? We're listed. So I was just going to talk about the fact that today, what we're typically seeing from marketplaces, lines of businesses, when there's a transaction that's less than 20K, they typically have the ability to just transact, right? So that line of business can do that. But then as you move up the chain to these larger deal sizes that require high touch, then that's where the private offers are definitely happening. Here's another example. So we talked about how you'll design your listing. You'll be able to add your data sheets, your videos, optimize your listing for SEO, adding contact information. pricing. The other thing that I really love is we have an automatic integration with G2 Crowd, which basically will show external reviews of your product if you happen to have reviews of G2 Crowd, which is really important for those products where you may be trying to reach end users as well, and you want an external review. The marketplace listings themselves also have the capability for users to add reviews for your product. So let's talk about SaaS. So there's 3 different types of SaaS listings. You can either use SaaS contracts where the customer pays upfront, right? 1, 2, or 3 years, maybe up to 5, or SaaS subscription, which is a pay-as-you-go type. And then you can also have the combination of both, which is SaaS contracts with consumption. And we actually already created an application where if you want to do the integration in-house, then you can use this serverless SaaS integration for SaaS products. And that will basically, in 1 or 2 product sprints, complete the integration. So we can provide that. And then the other piece is, this is kind of what happens, right? I talked about how you have a product listing, and then on the back end, you have a private offer. And so what is the flow of that? So I'll go through it once textually and then again visually. So what happens is your seller doesn't have to worry about marketplace. They would negotiate the deal as they normally would. So in this scenario, say they wanted to buy $27 million of your product over the next 3 years. Wow, great win, right? Then you can enter those terms into the private offer that's tied to the listing that you publish publicly. Then your rep would give the private offer link to the buyer. The buyer would accept it, and the benefits are going to be unlocked. And what happens there is, if you're an AWS partner, then the field is actually incented, to basically continue to help you unlock more benefits yourself. Go to market. So you kind of saw what mature sellers are doing on Marketplace with what Stephen showed you earlier. And so note that there's AWS-led joint go-to-market as well as seller-led. So it is performance-based. So based on how you're performing on Marketplace, that's how you unlock additional go-to-market. When you first start as a new seller, what's available to you? So Stephen touched on it a little bit. And basically, if you have access to the AWS Marketplace Management portal, then you automatically have access to this resource called the 180-day Go-to-Market Academy. What does that mean, 180-day? So what it means is prior to your launch, there are certain things that you can do to properly prepare yourself. And then what are things that you should be doing once you've launched your product? And so this Go-to-Market Academy covers, everything that includes, how do you sell and market your particular product with AWS and Marketplace. Since you're reaching an AWS audience, it's self-service, and it has videos and content that help you develop out everything that you need to market with Marketplace long-term. And then the listing, that's just the first step, right? So you've got to do ongoing enablement with your field sales. So myself, I do this on a regular basis, have great relationships with regional vice presidents and sales leaders with my sellers. And we're able to, help those deal size either increase or to go a bit faster. So I was going to tell you a quick story. Very recently, I helped launch a new seller who reached out to me. Their CRO said, we have a customer, AWS reached out to us that, really wants to get the benefits of doing a private offer. And so that new seller was able to get their AMI listing up, and they were able to close their first private offers in 10 business days. And so just to show you, how simple it can be when you really position AWS Marketplace as the premier way to collaborate with AWS field sales. And so it's really using network effects to draw attention to your particular offering. And then finally, what are seller private offers, right? Again, our goal is to empower your sales to, sell, right? To where if they can use some of these tools, then they should know kind of how to position them. So here again is a visual way of how the private offer process works. I'll just give you a few moments to take a look there. So you can kind of see that, it's truly a mechanism that delights the customer because they're able to see your products and services on their consolidated bill. And again, it's designed, these standardized license terms, they're really designed to streamline the process. And finally, right, in addition to private offers, say your customer says, we love your product and we want to buy more, you can actually run upgrades and renewals even before the original private offer ended. And so that's a feature that we're very excited about. And then from the buyer's end, so Michael or BankUnited may be very familiar, right? These are the kind of steps that they would take to accept the private offer. The consulting partner private offer is, as mentioned, just another type of private offer. And so definitely, work with our marketplace channel team if you would like some enablement about that. We have a whole program. If there are any SIs or GSIs that are not in the program that you would like us to onboard, then we're happy to help you do that as well. So my last couple of slides to round things off are just some best practices. So work with your dedicated AWS Marketplace business development manager. Right? I don't have to meet a quota. I'm truly here to help my ISVs be successful long-term. I'm happy if you're a new seller to walk you through and help with those initial 5 to 10 private offers, as well as the fact that you want to do win wires. And this is a repeatable, scalable motion that you can do globally throughout your company. I wanted to recommend that since both AWS and likely as an ISV, you're very customer focused. So you want to make every feature in AWS Marketplace available to your customers. And that's also going to really remove any friction right in the field when you're working with AWS field sales, to where if you're unlocking every piece of Marketplace, which is already available globally, then that's really going to help your business. And then finally, joint efforts to market. So that's awesome that you have your listing there. How are you driving traffic to it? And use that listing to match not only your partnership with AWS, but how you're going to market today. And then I know this is a bit verbose, but if you'll start with me from the left to the right, this will finish off the conversation. So you can use this kind of as a scorecard to measure where your organization is today. In terms of co-selling. You want to make sure that the products that you're offering on Marketplace are truly the ones that customers want to buy, that they use today, that there's a quality of selection. As you start and you grow, that's really important to customers and likely to the field sales as well, right? Because if it's there in Marketplace, then that's something that you can offer. And the other piece is if you look on the right, and this is where the ISVs are getting the most value out of both the partnership and AWS Marketplace, is motivate and enable your sales team. Provide support, right? So say there's self-service materials both inside of your company as well as a sales playbook for Marketplace. You can do that together with AWS. And then you're also able to basically better enable the AWS field sales to say, oh, when is it a natural way to engage? And then finally, activate and integrate those channel motions for AWS Marketplace. So today, it's a great way, if you don't have a channel business, right, to use Marketplace to then to launch that. So what have we learned from serving ISVs in the Marketplace? As you can see here, right, we've got many testimonials to where, right, New Relic saw higher uplift on contracts at 125% versus self-service. When going through Marketplace, Palo Alto Network saw triple-digit growth and expanding into segment sizes. And then Change Healthcare, really sees Marketplace as a way to better serve their customers as they're procuring. The other piece I was gonna just close off this specific session with is, working across the C-level suite and the board of directors. When you basically work with a category lead or Marketplace, we're very happy to help you, right, with the Marketplace program inside of the company so that you can realize a lot of these great results like the ones that these ISVs have mentioned, including Trend Micro. And Stephen, I would love to hand it back to you. I hope that I was doing okay on time here.
Perfect. Yes, Emmeline, thank you. That was tremendous and a really big help and a great way to kind of round out the dialogue today. So thank you so much for doing that.
You're welcome.
Okay. Great. So Hal, if you could put our closing slide up there, that would be fantastic. But while you're doing that, I would love to just take the opportunity to say thank you. Certainly to our panelists, to Michael, Yael, certainly Stephen and Emmeline from the AWS Marketplace team. It's been a really great journey to both share the buyer, the seller perspective, as well as just to talk about the mechanics of how we work better together. So we hope that you found this to be valuable. What I would like to just make sure everyone understands is that there's an offer for Stephen Orban's book. And when I introduced him earlier, I failed to mention that he's an author of a really great book that's received a lot of praise, that it's a head in the cloud. Here's my worn copy right here on my desk. I bring this up, one, because we'd love for you to take advantage of getting a signed copy from Stephen. So make sure that you fill out the survey as well as email Hal Knight. His email address is on the screen. We'd love for you to be able to get a copy of it. The reason I bring it up is, of course, it's a great book that Stephen wrote, but at the same time, the AWS field sales force has been very, very consistent in using the story, the narrative, all of the content in this book and talking to enterprise and mid-market customers now for the last couple of years. And so often when you walk into enterprise CIOs, CTOs offices, you see the book on the shelf, and having your sellers become familiar with the story and the journey around cloud adoption is really powerful, and it's a great common kind of ground to go talk to new customers and to relate better to the ones we have together. So make sure you get a copy of it, and Hal's email address is on the screen. There's also a survey that has been posted in the chat. We really, really, really want your feedback to make sure that this is valuable for you. And then lastly, if you want to advance the slide one more time, I think, Hal, we want to make it super simple to follow up. There are a lot of things that are out there that you might be interested in that you heard today, or you don't know who to go to. We've made it really simple. On the AWS side, Hal Knight, who's been piloting this journey in the background. Thank you to you, Hal, for doing all the work on this and getting it going. Hal's email address is up there, regardless of where you are or what team you work with. Hal can get you connected better inside of AWS. There's a lot of great stuff that we learned from Trend Micro today. So not only Trend Micro's story about being a great partner to AWS and having a tremendous amount of success selling in the field, if you want to get to know them a little bit better about how they've gone on their journey using AWS Marketplace, feel free to reach out. But even more so, if you're interested in Trend Micro, their solutions, the impact they make in the market, that wouldn't be a bad thing either. Susanna Dyer, her information is on the screen as well. Feel free to reach out to Susanna. She can get you connected to Yael and the extended team at Trend Micro to help you really get to build that connection and get to know anybody at Trend Micro, their story, their products, their solutions. With that being said, we are at time. Thank you so much for investing a couple hours with us today. I hope you found it worthwhile, and I hope you have a great afternoon wherever you are. And thanks once again, and take care.